during this lecture we are going to focus more on repetition statements in C++, specifically while loops, a little bit more detail. So first let's take a look and see what we have discussed so far. So now in general then when we have a repetition set of statements that we need to perform, so there are few things we need to recognize. So first, so what we need to repeat, like set of statements that needs to be repeated, and also the condition check that determines whether we need to repeat or not. So as well as the starting point and the ending point for the repetition. Now when you group all of these things together, so we can put them into different C++ constructs. So one such commonly used construct is the while loop. Now in the while loop the syntax goes like this, so where we have the while keyword, and then we have the condition inside the bracket, and that condition is going to give us either true or false. So depending on the true false values, we perform set of operations we need to do, or we get out from the loop. So therefore in the while condition, that basically determines whether we need to repeat or not. It's like an entrance point to the loop, right? So far we talked about one form of while loop, so that is called the counter control while loops, where we know how many times we need to repeat certain things, right? So here is one quick example. So suppose I need to display hello 10 times. So that means that we know exactly how many times we need to perform a certain set of operations. That's 10 times. So since we know it is 10 times, we can keep a counter to keep track of how many times we have been performing that particular operation. All right. So displaying hello 10 times, that means that we need to repeat cout hello 10 times. Now since we need to wrap it around in a loop, so then we can put a while loop within that. So then cout is inside the loop. Now we need to put together the control statements that determine how many times we will be repeating this particular statement, right? To do that, so here we are using a counter. So initial value of the counter equals to 0 to indicate that we have not repeated at least once. Now we put the stopping condition where counter less than 10. So during the process we keep on incrementing the counter by 1. So therefore counter goes from 0, 1 up to 9. So that's 10 times. When the counter value is 10, so then 10 less than 10 is false. So then we are done with this operation, right? So that's pretty much how the counter control while loops work. Let's look at one more form of a while loop, so in which we don't know really how many times we will be repeating, but we know exactly when we are stopping the repetitions depending on certain conditions that happens, right? So that kind of a condition is called the sentinel. So using a sentinel value, so we can determine when to stop. Okay, so suppose we want to write a while loop that read integers from the keyboard and then add them together until user enter -999, right? So in that case then, so we really don't know how many times we will be repeating, but we know when to terminate the situation, right? Now if we try to analyze this a little bit more, so then user inputs can be something like this, where we, let's say, enter 2, 8, -5, 9, and then -999, right? So in that scenario then, so we'll be adding all of these 4 numbers together for the total summation, and then when we see this terminating condition, that's a sentinel, so we will stop the program. So that's the first scenario, right? But we can have a scenario like this also. Let's say user is entering values like 2, 8, then -999, -5, and then 9. Now in this case, so sentinel, the terminating condition is in the middle of the input stream. So in that case then, so we'll be adding only these two together. When you see -999, we are going to stop the program. Okay, so here is another situation where we can have a separate type of input stream, in which we can have the sentinel as a very first number. So then regardless of the values that we have for the rest of the input stream, so program will be terminated as soon as it read the very first number. Okay, so therefore when you try to put together this particular statement into C++, So we need to accommodate all of these three forms of possible inputs. All right. So then what we have to do is then essentially read a number from the keyboard, and then if that number is not equals to minus 999, so we go ahead and add that number to the total sum, right? So and then repeat the process. Okay. Now to accomplish this task, then so we need to have two variables. So first one is to read a number from the keyboard, so let's call num, and then another integer variable to add them together called sum. So we are going to initialize summation to 0. Okay. So now inside this loop, then so we need to check whether num not equals to minus 999. So now in here, then the terminating condition is slightly different, where we really don't have how many times, but we have a terminating condition using a special value. So that's the sentinel, right? Now in here, then so the first thing we need to do is, if number is not equals to minus 999, so we can go ahead and add that number to the sum plus num, and then we can read the next number. So C in num, right? So now to begin with, then so in order for us to accommodate input stream like a third case here, so we should be reading the number before the while loop, so that we never go into the loop if the first number is minus 999, right? So therefore we can read the first number in here. So if that number is not 999, so we go inside, add that number to the sum, and then read the next number, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right. So let's look at the complete program then, so that accomplishes this task. So then here, so we have the number that read numbers from the keyboard, and then summation is initialized to 0. Then read the first number, and inside the loop, so we keep on reading the number and then adding it to the total sum, right? So let's run through this one with the input scenario. So suppose our input scenario is something like this, then so 5 minus 3 and then minus 999. Okay. So then in this one, so let's trace the values for the number and the sum. Now initial value for the sum is 0, and initially we don't put anything for the number, but we are reading the first number, so therefore first number will be 2. Okay. Now we check whether that number is not equals to 999, so that is true, so then we go inside the loop. So inside the loop, then we are adding the number to the sum, so then sum will be 2. Okay. And then go ahead and read the second number. So when you read the second number, this is going to be 5. Okay. And then we go back to the beginning of the loop, and then we check whether the number not equals to 999, so that is true at this point, so therefore we add that one also to the sum, so then sum will be 7, right? And then go ahead and read the next number, so that's minus 3. Okay. Go back to the beginning of the loop. So since it is not equals to minus 999, so we go ahead and add that one also to the sum, so then that's going to be 4, and read the next number. So the next number is minus 999. Okay. So when you go back, then so number equals to minus 999 at this point, so then not equals to minus 999 is false, so then we get out from it. At that point we see out sum, so then we will be displaying 4 as the output from this program. So that is essentially how this loop is going to work, right? So let's take a situation where the very first number happens to be minus 999, right? So let's say we have this sequence, right? Now in this case, then so the first number that we are reading is minus 999, so then sum equals 0. So now we come here after reading the first number, so number not equals to minus 999, that fails right away. So since it is failing right away, so we get out from the loop, we don't go inside the loop at all, and then display the current summation. So then current sum happens to be 0, and in this case, so we are going to display 0. So that's how it's going to accommodate a situation like this, where the first number happens to be the terminating condition. Okay. Alright, so let's take one more example. So suppose we need to write a loop that reads a character from the keyboard and display them until user enter this special character to terminate the input stream. Alright, so now the terminating condition is given using the $sign. Okay, so since we are reading a character from the keyboard, so we need to have a character variable, so let's call it ch, right? And let's write the while condition here. So then while, so ch not equals to the $sign, so we need to display the character that we read from the keyboard, so that means cout ch, and then read the next character. All right, so now reading the next character, we can use cin dot get and ch, so that's going to read even spaces. Okay, so now again, in order for us to accommodate a situation where user is entering the $sign as a very first character, so we should be reading that actually before the loop. So then cin dot get ch in here. Okay, so if you run through this one, let's say for input stream like this nature where you have a, b, 2 and the $sign. Now first thing that we are reading for ch is a, okay, and then a not equals to the $sign, so therefore we go inside the loop and then display that ch, that's a, and then read the next character. So the next character is b. Okay, so we taken out b from the input stream and go back here. Now b not equals to the $sign, so therefore we go inside the loop again. So and then we display b, and then go ahead and read the next character. So that's going to be 2. Okay, and when you go back, so 2 not equals to the $sign, so that's also true. So therefore we are displaying 2, and then read the next character. Now next character happens to be the $sign. Now when you go back, then ch not equals to $sign fails, so then we get out from the loop. Right, so that's how this loop works. Okay, so then always when you have a sentinel, so then sentinel is represented as the terminating condition. Okay, all right, so let's try to put this thing into a little bit more perspective by solving, let's say, a slightly larger problem. So where we need to write a program that allows the user to enter both positive and negative numbers until user enter -999, and then add negative numbers separately and then positive numbers separately. Now if you think about this scenario, so this is let's take one quick look at a possible input stream. So let's say we have 2, 5, -6, 8, -2, and then -999, right? So in this case, so this is our input stream. Now we can keep on reading the input stream. So as we read it, so we need to figure out whether it's a positive number or a negative number. If it is a positive number, we are going to add that to the positive sum. So currently it's 2, and then go ahead and read the second number. So that's a positive number, so then this will be 7. Now the next number is going to be a negative number, so therefore we are going to put it into the negative number group, so -6. And the next number that we read is 8, so then we put it in the positive group, so then that will be 15. And the last number that we read before -999 is -2, so that's a negative number, so then we go into this direction, so then there's going to be -8. And then finally we are reading 999, so then we get out from the loop, right? So now in this particular scenario, so if you notice how this works, so then we need to keep on reading numbers, so that's the loop we have, and then inside the loop, so we need to make this decision to check whether the number that we read is a positive or a negative number. So therefore this is actually if else scenario. So if number is a positive number, so we go ahead and add it to the positive sum, otherwise add it to the negative sum, right? So then inside a loop, so we have this selection statement as well, right? So let's look at the design for this particular solution and then see how it works together. Okay, so then in general, So we read a number from the keyboard, and we check if the number is not equals to minus 999. If that is the case, so we go ahead and add positive numbers separately and negative numbers separately. Now if we expand on this box right here and then see what is happening inside that box, so then inside that box we need to check whether the number less than 0. So if the number is less than 0, so we are adding it to the negative sum, otherwise we are adding it to the positive sum. So therefore we have a selection statement also inside the loop, right? So after doing this process, so we go ahead and read the next number, right? So then we continue this loop. So then inside the loop, so we go into a selection statement as well. Okay, so let's look at the program for it and then see how we can write the program. And then in here, so we need to define few things. So first we need to define a number that allows us to read data from the keyboard, and then we need to have positive number summation and the negative number summation. So we declare those two variables and then initialize them to 0, and then we are reading the first number here before the loop, and then while number not equals to minus 999, so we go ahead and execute the logical condition to check whether it's a positive number or a negative number. If number is greater than 0, that's a positive number, so then we'll add that number to the positive sum. So otherwise we are going to add that number to the negative sum, right? Now after doing this logical computation, so we are going to read the next number, right, and then go back to the condition check. So then this loop happens until user enter minus 999. When user is entering minus 99, so we are going to get out on the loop and then display positive sum and negative sum separately. All right, okay. So that's how we can put together loops and conditional statements together. So this is an example where we have conditional statements inside a loop. Now it is possible that we have a loop inside a conditional statement as well. All right, so then by combining loops and selection statements together, so we can write very complex programs that can accomplish a lot of decision making, so as well as data processing. All right. Now it is time for us to do a checkpointing question and then see if we all understand the while loops and while loop related constructs, especially the counter control loops and the sentinel control loops. Okay.